Hey friends, so I want to show you a few projects from my slab template kit. If you've already purchased the kit, this can be your guide on the best way to use the templates. And if you haven't purchased the kit, this is also a great introduction to slab pottery in general, and maybe you can make some similar forms with your own shapes. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you 3 different projects that are in the template kit. So let's get started. I'm going to be working with just these 4 templates today to make 3 different projects. And the template kit includes 21 templates, so you can really see how the possibilities are endless as to what you can create. I really encourage you to experiment with your templates, even making projects that aren't included in the project guide. So I'm going to be starting with the shallow bowl project. For this, we're going to be needing template P and S. I definitely encourage you to wedge your clay before using to make sure it's nice and homogeneous. And then we're going to go ahead and roll out the slab. So I especially wanted to show you how this P template works because it's such a big shape and it didn't actually fit on an A4 piece of paper, so I had to break the template down into 2 pieces. So it's really important that you cut out just 3 sides of the template when you're first cutting it, and then you flip the template like I'm doing here now and cut out the rest of it. So this should be one long continuous shape, like a C shape, in order to get the right shape that we want. And then I'm just going to cut out the S, which is just a simple circle. So I want my slab pieces to dry out a little bit, that's why I'm putting them in front of the fan. So I typically put them in front of the fan for just about 5 minutes, just so they can stiffen up a little bit and become easier to work with when we're assembling. So first I'm going to assemble the body of the bowl, and so I'm going to cut off the edges that are going to be attaching each other. I'm going to cut them at a 45-degree angle so that they can kind of overlap. And this is going to make a much stronger attachment than if you just put the 2 ends up against each other. And then always I'm going to score the parts that are attaching. And then I'm going to use a paintbrush just to add some water. Whenever I'm using fresh clay, I never bother with slip. I usually just use water and it works out just fine. And just get it attached pretty well. Don't worry that it's not looking perfect quite yet, because we're going to let this dry out again for about 5 minutes to let the water soak in and the piece harden up a little bit again. And after the 5 minutes is up, I'm just going to smooth out that attachment. So then we're going to work on the bottom. So all the bottoms in the template kit are bigger than the piece that you actually need. And this is because it's really important to attach the bottom before you actually cut out the final shape. If you cut that out too soon, you might end up with a too small bottom. So you'll see here that I'm scoring and attaching my piece with the extra big bottom. I'm going to smooth it in, make sure it's really well connected. And then once it's dried out again for about 5 minutes so that the connection can firm up a little, that's when I'll cut off the bottom to the final size it should be. And then here's a little trick for my slab builders and really anyone who's attaching 2 pieces of clay together. Once I've assembled the body, I always wrap up my piece and let it sit for 24 hours so that the attachments can become really strong, so that all of the moisture in the whole piece can equalize. And then the next day I'll go back in and smooth everything out and do the final details once it's firmed up a little bit and equalized. This is a great little trick that can help you prevent cracks, as well as when it's leather hard, you have a much easier time making the piece nice and sharp. And here's the final result. So of course I've also fired this pot twice and also glazed it. I've got so many videos on firing and glazing though that I figured I would just skip that in this one. So here is the next project. This one I'm so excited about as well. This is called the flower frog. If you don't know what a flower frog is, well, you'll find out. So again, we're going to be using the P template, and this time I didn't actually have enough clay in my slab. So you'll see here that I'm attaching a little bit more clay from the bottom. This is totally fine. I do this all the time in slab building. As long as you smooth out the attachment, roll it and compress it again with the rib, it should be fine. You won't notice that you added anything later on. And then we'll also need the C template for this one. Again, I'm drying it out in front of the fan, and then I'm going to assemble the body parts first before I put them together. And of course, you know by now, I'm just going to cut the attached parts at an angle, and then I'm going to score and add some water instead of slip. Once the pieces have dried out a little bit, I'll go ahead and attach them together. So this part's a little bit tricky because you want to push the top cone down into the bottom with firm pressure, but you don't want to smush the bottom cone because remember, it's just leather hard. It could easily buckle still. So what I like to do is kind of twist the top cone down. You'll see here that I'm kind of like twisting it a little bit as I push down. That can really help the two sides attach together. And then of course I'm going to go in and smooth it out. So for this one, I'm not going to poke the holes until the next day because that's much easier to do when they're leather hard. So the next day I'm just smoothing it out again. I'm using my rib to kind of scrape off the clay that I don't want. And then I'm going to go ahead with my hole cutter and cut out these holes. You can do whatever pattern you like here. And here's the final result. Okay, the last project is another one of my favorites. It's the minimal vase. And for this, we're just going to be using 2 C templates and 1 E template. And I'm also just using the scraps that I had left over from the other ones. So you'll see here that I'm also attaching 2 pieces together to not waste any of that slab that I already rolled out. So I'll assemble the 2 cone shapes separately, and then I'll let them dry out and firm out for 5 minutes. Then I'll attach the 2 cones together. Once again, let it dry and firm up for about 5 minutes again. And then at the very end, you want to attach the bottom. So I hope that that video was helpful for all of you getting into slab pottery. So if you're interested in the template kit, I have all of these other designs that you can make with the templates provided, as well as any additional designs that you come up with yourself. If you're interested in checking that out, I will have it linked down below. I have a physical and a digital version, so there's one version where you can even just print it out in your home computer. So definitely check that out below if you're interested, and otherwise I will see you in the next video. Bye friends!